Welcome to my vertical obsession. I am your host, Megan, and today we are talking about CandyJar's Taming of the Heiress. This series was a two-part series. The first part, the synopsis said, a spoiled media heiress and a struggling musician are forced into a contract marriage by her billionaire father. Their battle of wills ignites into a dangerous game of lust, ambition, and unexpected love. And in part two, the synopsis says, after a dramatic wedding full of surprises, a reckless media heiress and the musician she paid to be her husband are thrust into a storm of betrayal, public scandal, and unexpected desire. And this stars Isabella Ward as Kyle Moss, Ali Baldwin, pronouncing that incorrectly, I'm sure, as Julian Davis, Jeff Lawless as Colin, James C. Byrne as Miller Moss, Katrina Brienne as Rosea, I think it's Zaina. And this one was on CandyJar. And one of the things about this one that really kind of pulled me in and struck me when I was first watching it was that it was very similar to The Arrangement, which is another CandyJar series. And sure enough, when I kind of went and looked it up on their novel app, it is a spin-off to the series The Arrangement. So that is why it is very similar to The Arrangement, because it was basically reversed. The Arrangement was a spoiled rich billionaire boy who wants to be CEO. His father is like, no, you got to settle down, get married, asks this kind-hearted female to marry his son so he can be CEO and show that he can be a family man. And that's basically the sense of this one, is that media heiress Kyle Moss is trouble. Her father wants her to settle down. He sees this musician who was playing outside their company and offers him all this money so that way he could marry Kyle and prove that Kyle could settle down. Oh, I wasn't far off with the whole arrangement part. I just didn't realize that it was a spinoff at the time. However, part one of the novel dropped, but we still haven't seen part two yet. And I'm like, well, when are we getting the final part? Part two dropped on CandyJar, just not on their novel app. So the novel ends with the wedding. So I'm waiting for the second part. I'm like, I know the novel, they tend to have more in it than in the series. So I kind of like to read them both to be like, okay, so what's different? What did they change and what did they add? It's one thing about CandyJar I like, is that I can read the novels that they're based on to see what has changed. But going into this, one of the things that I kind of noticed about this series is that Julian, he was hurt by a past love and he was left to pick up the pieces. He was afraid of being hurt and screwed over again by someone he loved. And instead of trying to restart his life and do things, he instead chose to take care of his sister who was diagnosed with cancer. And on the other hand, you have Kyle, who lost her mom, and her dad had kind of threw himself into work, which left Kyle alone. So she ends up choosing to act out instead of allowing those hurt feelings of her dad abandoning her in a sense and her mom dying take over. She'd rather numb that feeling with boys, booze, and other things than to actually feel that pain. She always kind of found that easier. And when you throw Julian into this whole thing, he can see that and he's desperately trying to prove that she doesn't need to do that. She doesn't need to throw herself into boys, booze, and drugs or anything else to numb this pain, that it is okay to feel this pain. And one of the things that Julian had mentioned is that he didn't think Kyle kind of really respected herself, and he was going to help her respect herself. And he was going to be that person to try and help her, which in a sense helps him because he was guarded from feeling pain because of the ex who hurt him in the past. There are another two that are two wounded souls who kind of come together to heal themselves and heal each other because of the pain in the past. Like Julian lost his parents, his ex-girlfriend, who was also his bandmate, dumped him and then stole his songs. And then Kyle, her mom died. Her dad threw himself into work, so she was left alone and had no one to really kind of comfort her. So the two of them kind of found each other with the help of her father, and they're able to heal each other and help each other through this pain that they've dealt with. And of course, just when the two of them are finally finding each other and finally getting that happiness that they both didn't think they could, Zaina returns and just blows that all up by trying to get back with Julian and kissing him on his wedding day, mind you. And Kyle happens to see that and she freaks out and reverts back to this whole, I don't want to be hurt. People can't hurt me. And nope, we're strictly business. I don't care for you more than just business. And Julian's over here being like, no, I care for you. I want you. I don't want this barrier between us, but it's hard to crack those walls that Kyle threw up again. And in the end, she ends up hurting Julian both emotionally and physically, because after her wedding and after storming off, she went to go see Colin, her ex, which when Julian finds out about that, he assumes that she slept with him and just kind of threw away everything they had and was ready to just up and leave. So Kyle tried to tell him, no, that's not what happened. Nothing happened. I just went over to talk to him and we never did anything. But Julian wouldn't listen. So he just wanted to go and see his sister. So Kyle not suggested, but she said she would drive him, which they end up into a car crash. And that's where she physically hurt him, not on purpose. It was an accident. Julian ends up losing his memory, and Kyle takes this opportunity to think it better not tell him about her past or about what transpired before the crash. She kept saying she was going to tell him eventually, but she didn't want to ruin what they were building as he didn't have any memory of what had happened. And she wanted to hold on to him like this, but she chose it in the wrong way because she was afraid. She told him the truth, she'd lose him. She didn't think that they could survive, in a sense. She was just so in her head that if she told him the truth and told him what happened and about her past, that he was just going to leave her like everyone else. And she did not want that. But in the end, when he did remember, he told her it was done, they were done, and she realized that she should have told him the truth from the beginning and that she ended up losing him anyways. But when the truth came out that they were together because it was a contract and that her father paid Julian, she came out and she said, yeah, this is what it is. It's a contract marriage. My dad paid him. This is how we are. Julie ended up stepping up and being like, yeah, it started out this way, but I love Kyle, and just declared his full love for her and was like, I'm not ready to let you go. I don't want to give you up. And the two of them end up back together. So even though Julian was ready to leave, he took this whole situation and he was like, nope, I love you. I'm not giving you up. We're not walking away. I'm going to fight for us. So as I, was just deciding that, I was mentioning all the different things between Julian and Kyle. Like I said, my little breakdown of Kyle's character is the whole, she's hiding behind all this heartbreak and booze and boys and drugs to hide this part of herself because she doesn't want to get hurt. She doesn't want to risk losing people because she already lost her mom. And then her dad pulls away and throwing himself into work, so she doesn't have anyone. And so she feels that it's better to keep people at arm's length or hurt people before they can hurt her mentality, in a sense. And Julian was actually able to help bring her out of that shell and show her that it is okay to care for someone and that someone will care for her back and you can open up, because he was also someone who was wounded and left behind because he lost his parents. He had to take care of his sister who was now battling cancer. He was screwed over by his ex-girlfriend and his bandmate. So it's like he was just as damaged by all these different things as well, and he was still willing to open up and allow Kyle into his heart, even though the last person he did that to screwed him over. But of course, when Kyle ends up backsliding and going to Collins after the wedding, he feels that he is being played again and that he is being made the fool. So he'd rather leave and hurt Kyle by walking away because he doesn't want to be hurt again. He doesn't want to be screwed over a second time. So even though he loved Kyle, he felt she was going to hurt him just as much as Zaina did before. He was willing to show her that he loved her and they could be happy and nothing could stop them. But the minute she went back to Colin, he just felt that she put a knife in his gut and twisted it, and he didn't want that feeling again. And even though all this transpired, he still deeply loved her and still was willing to tell her and be with her after everything was said and done, because she had come up and finally taken responsibility for her actions, in a sense. Really at the end there where the truth came out and that it was a contract marriage. Her dad paid Julian to marry her and all that. She came up and said, yeah, that's what this is, and was kind of like, okay, fine. I'm done pretending. I've screwed everyone. I've hurt everyone. It's finally just the truth needs to come out, and I need to take responsibility for this and see where the chips may fall. And Julian sees this, and of course, it shows him just the person that he loves. So I think that's kind of helped him be like, I love you. I want to be with you. You just can't screw me over again. But because of everything they both went to, they were able to heal and open up and find that way back to this happy place, in a sense.
So there was two things about Taming of the Heiress that I kind of was not questioning, but just like had thoughts on. One was that I was just really mad for Kyle not telling Julian the truth when he had forgotten everything, because I knew it would end up backfiring on her, and I was rooting for her to try and be better this time around and just lay it all out there for him, so that way he could see her and see the changes that she has made, so that way they could eventually get back together and find peace. So I was just really kind of mad at her for not telling him, because it's also, you had Zaina come in and use this as a way to worm her way back into Julian's life. She used the memory loss to try and convince him that they were still good friends and they still kept in touch, and he still helped her with her music, and she manipulated that in her favor. And I figured she would do something like that. Like, that would be something definitely her character would do, because she wanted him to help her write new music because all her songs were his songs and she couldn't write songs, so she needed him. So she saw this opportunity and used it. But had Kyle told Julian kind of like the truth, or some of it at least, maybe he could have protected himself from Zaina trying to manipulate him, or at least been a bit more aware that maybe not everyone's telling him the truth, I feel. But I get that it kind of added drama, and it was a way for Kyle to try and butter him up and make him see that he did love her and why he loved her, and kind of give them a fresh start in a way. I just was not a fan of the way she was doing it. The other thing is that I kind of wish that there was more to the story. Like, I love how it ended. It was nice. It was all wrapped up. They had their happy ending. But I also kind of was like wanting to see a little bit more, especially with Julian. Like, I would have loved to have seen him get a music career or pursuing music a bit more, especially as a way to kind of show that he was good and that all his music was better. Almost as a way to kind of like stick it to Zaina, like, I am good and I can do this, and everything that you've done in the past means nothing because I'm still going to pursue music and I have a career, kind of thing, if that makes sense. But I kind of would have loved to have seen that. So if they do any sequels, I would love to see him kind of pursuing music a bit more, at least his character. I think that would be fun. Those are just kind of two things that I had about this series, because I really didn't have any other thoughts or critiques or any questions. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. It was fun and it just was adorable. I loved the two actors. They played off each other very well, and their chemistry was great. I loved that it was also two parts, so that way you got to see two series together versus one, and then it's over. So I love when there are multiple, not spin-offs, but parts, kind of. And I love that CandyJar will do that with certain series. They'll have more than one part for it, and I like that. I'm glad that they've been doing that. So for this series, I definitely kind of ranked it a little bit higher in my ratings because of how much I enjoyed it. And I've always really liked CandyJar's series because I feel like they are really well done. But again, they're also based off writing from their novel app. So that I think that kind of helps it too. But for my rating for this one, it is a 9 out of 10. And again, I told doing the 7 different rating areas that I mentioned in my last review. But if you didn't hear that, so the rating areas are character, atmosphere, writing, plot, pacing, intrigue, and likability. And then I take those and I divide the scores that I've given them, and it gives me my score out of 10 for each one. And that's kind of how I'm going to go about it from now on. But that is Taming of the Heiress. And again, I would love to know what you think of this series. Did you have any favorite parts? Have you seen the arrangement, the series, the arrangement? How do you think it compares? Do you like one more than the other? Really kind of love to hear. So this has been my vertical obsession. I'm your host, Megan, and until next time.